Hey there, VgZero. Welcome to the very first Weekly News Roundup. I'm your editor, ZooFunkyFace, and I'm here to give you the Weekly News Roundup for the week of March 21st to the 28th. In 2009, Tolkien's Lord of the Rings Tales will continue on the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC with Snowblind Studios' new game, The Lord of the Rings: War in the North. The game is based on events that are described in the books and in Tolkien's annotations. Very few people know about these battles, and so the game should offer a very interesting outlook on the series. The game stars a whole new cast of characters, but there will be appearances of the movie personas of certain characters, and perhaps voice acting too. The game is also the first M-rated game in the series, as is evident through the newly released teaser trailer. The game is labeled as an action RPG. Some news on Scribblenauts 2 this week. Apparently the game is receiving many new upgrades, including D-pad control, an improved camera system, improved physics, and the biggest new feature is the addition of over 10,000 adjectives in the game. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on this one. There's been news that a God of War Trilogy box set will be releasing in Europe and Australia. God of War Trilogy will include the first two PS2 ports of God of War and God of War 2, just as in the God of War collection. But of course it wouldn't be a trilogy without the recently released God of War 3. Those looking forward to taking on the gods from beginning to end should be prepared to take a €90 hit or a £65 hit for all our UK friends. Compare that with the God of War collection, which was priced at €40 and £25. The God of War Trilogy will launch in all PAL territories on April 28, 2010, with the exception of Australia and New Zealand on April 29, and the UK, Ireland, Germany, and Austria on April 30. Final Fantasy XIII is the fastest-selling Final Fantasy game in the series. It sold over 1 million copies in 5 days in North America. One must take into consideration the fact, though, that this is the first Final Fantasy to appear on 2 platforms and 2 continents at the exact same time. Not to mention, it is also the first next-generation Final Fantasy. The Xbox 360 received a standalone 250GB hard drive in North America that will be retailing for $129.99. Nintendo announced the Nintendo 3DS. Very little is known as of now, other than the fact that it will be an entirely new hardware line and will not need 3D glasses. There is some speculation that the system may use head tracking to simulate 3D environments. Heavy Rain director David Cage will be revisiting Heavy Rain to give the game added move controls with the release of PlayStation Move later this year. Cage had originally wanted it, and so it is only natural that these move controls will be implemented. On another note, Cage also mentioned that he is working on another game that is very different from Heavy Rain.
Just don't believe he's guilty.
Your other son, Mr. Shepard.
Alright, it's review time now. On the PS3 and Xbox 360 is Final Fantasy XIII. Final Fantasy XIII has received some mixed reviews. Many have enjoyed the deceivingly simple active battle system, which on the surface seems simple enough, but will become much more engaging as you wield paradigm shifts that change your character's fighting style. Many have slammed its very linear progression. For much of the game, you will not be visiting any towns. But don't be mistaken, you will visit some towards the later half of the game. If you don't mind the linearity and enjoy JRPGs, then you should definitely check this game out. It received an 83 on Metacritic. On the PS3 is God of War 3. Arguably the most anticipated game on the list, God of War 3 has received stellar reviews and sets you back into Kratos' shoes as you fight your way through hordes of Greek mythological creatures and gods. The game is said to be one of the most gorgeous PS3 releases yet, and a beautiful end to the God of War series. While some say the story suffered a bit, who doesn't like ripping off the sun god's head to use as a makeshift flashlight? Suffice to say it, the fans are pleased. The God of War 3 received a 92 on Metacritic. On the 360 and the PC, Metro 2033 was released. Set in a dingy subway system of post-apocalyptic Moscow, you play as Artyom, who was born before the destruction of mankind in 2013, but has lived underground all his life. Your journey will take you out of your subway home to attempt to make it to the heart of the Metro system to warn the rest of the humans of an impending threat. The game's story has been heralded as a tightly knit and surprising adventure. Initial reviews say it suffers from glitches, but a patch was quickly released which is said to have fixed these problems. It has received a 78 on Metacritic. On the PS3, 360, and the PC is Just Cause 2. The reviews have been generally positive for this game. Taken to an over-the-top action movie, the game pits you as Rico Rodriguez as you stunt jump, grapple, and parachute your way over the island of Panau. A pure guilty pleasure game that lets you surf on jets and skydive from ridiculous things. There's a demo out for the game, so try it out and see if it suits your fancy. It's received an 81 for the 360 and an 84 for the PS3 on Metacritic. That's it for this week's VgZero Weekly Roundup. Tune in next week for more. This has been ZooFunkyFace telling you to keep on playing.